we meet Light Yagami in Japan. Light is a high school student, brilliant, disciplined, and respected. He is the kind of person who seems destined for an elite future. He gets the highest grades. He speaks politely. His family is stable, and his father, Soichiro Yagami, is a senior police officer. On the surface, Light has everything, but inside, he is bored. He looks at the world and sees it as rotten. He feels trapped in a society where people accept evil as normal. He believes most people simply tolerate crime because they feel powerless to stop it. On a certain day, as Light sits in class, he notices something outside the window. A black notebook falls from the sky and lands in the school grounds. It is strange, but it does not cause panic. It is not glowing. It is not loudly crashing. It is just there, sitting like it belongs. After class, Light goes outside and finds it. The cover reads Death Note. The words look dramatic, like something from a cheap horror story. Light flips it open and sees rules written in English. The first rule says that the human whose name is written in this note shall die. The words are so direct that they feel ridiculous. Light thinks it must be a prank. He keeps reading. The rules explain that if the cause of death is not specified, the person dies of a heart attack. If the cause of death is written, it will happen. It also says that the writer must have the person's face in mind when writing the name, so that people with the same name are not accidentally killed. There are more rules, but Light's mind sticks to the first one. The human whose name is written in this note shall die. Light brings the notebook home. He does not believe it, but the idea clings to him. A notebook that can kill. It sounds insane, yet something about it feels too specific to be a joke. Light decides to test it. He looks for a name, a face, someone whose death would not weigh on him. He turns on the television and sees news about a criminal. The face is shown. The name is shown. Light hesitates, then writes the name. At first, nothing happens. Light waits. He tells himself he is being foolish. Then, right on schedule, the criminal collapses and dies on live television from a sudden heart attack. Light freezes. His breath catches. His hands tremble. The notebook worked. Light tries to deny it. He tells himself it could be coincidence. So he tests it again, using another criminal whose name and face he can confirm. Again, the person dies in the way the notebook promised. Light can no longer pretend. The death note is real. The moment the reality sinks in, Light is shaken, but he also feels something else. A sense of power, a sense of possibility. He thinks about his father, a man who struggles every day to fight crime within the limits of law and procedure. Light thinks about court cases, appeals, delays. He thinks about criminals who walk free. Then he looks at the notebook and feels that the world has placed judgment in his hands. Light does not immediately see himself as a murderer. In his own mind, he frames it as justice. He begins writing names of criminals, one after another. He chooses those who have committed serious crimes, those society has labeled as monsters. He believes that by removing them, he can change the world. Fear will reduce crime. People will behave. The innocent will be safer. As the deaths pile up, the pattern becomes obvious. Criminals across Japan, and then across the world, begin dying of sudden heart attacks. News anchors speak of a mysterious force. Police are terrified because there is no weapon, no contact, no trace. The public begins whispering a name. Kira, a Japanese pronunciation of the English word killer. Light hears the name and accepts it. Kira becomes a symbol, and Light begins to see himself as more than a student with a dangerous notebook. He begins to think like a ruler. If he can eliminate criminals, he can create a new world. And if he can create a new world, he must stand at the top of it. But the Death Note is not just a tool. It is tied to something beyond human logic. One evening, Light senses a presence behind him, a shadow large and unnatural. When he turns, he sees a creature that should not exist. Pale skin, sharp teeth, wide eyes, a grin that looks amused rather than threatening. This is Ryuk, a Shinigami, a god of death. Ryuk explains that the Death Note belongs to the world of Shinigami. He dropped it into the human world because he was bored. Shinigami exist in a dull realm where time stretches endlessly, and Ryuk wanted entertainment. He tells Light that when a human uses the Death Note, their life becomes interesting. To Ryuk, Light is not a partner or a friend. He is a show. Light is terrified for a moment, but his fear turns into calculation. Ryuk is not stopping him. Ryuk is not taking the notebook back. Ryuk is simply watching. That means Light can continue. Ryuk also reveals that Shinigami love apples. He becomes obsessed with human apples, calling them irresistible. This becomes a strange background detail in the growing horror. While Light plots to reshape society, Ryuk sits nearby, chewing apples and laughing quietly at human ambition. Light asks questions. Can Ryuk kill for him? Ryuk refuses. He will not take sides. He explains that he is simply observing. He will not help Light win. He will not help Light lose. But he will be there to watch what happens. The idea that a god of death is watching should frighten Light. Instead, it makes him feel chosen. He declares his goal aloud. He will cleanse the world of criminals. He will create a society where people live without fear. He will become the god of the new world. At the same time, law enforcement cannot ignore the growing body count. Since Light's father is part of the police leadership, we see the impact at home. Soichiro Yagami is stressed, exhausted, and deeply concerned. The police are facing something they cannot understand. They do not even know what to call it. Is it terrorism? Is it a virus? Is it mass hysteria? The international community becomes involved. And one name rises above all others as the world's last hope against Kira. L is a legendary detective, known for solving cases that no one else can. His identity is hidden. His methods are strange. His success rate is nearly perfect. When the police are desperate, they accept L's involvement, even though it means dealing with a person who refuses to reveal his face. L begins by making a bold move. He understands that Kira is killing criminals. He also suspects Kira needs some kind of information about the victim. A name, a face, a link. So L sets a trap. On television, a broadcast airs featuring a man introduced. As L, this man is actually a condemned criminal, used as bait, and he announces that he will capture Kira. He insults Kira. He calls him evil. He challenges him. Light watches this broadcast. His pride flares. If someone is challenging Kira, then this person must die. Light writes the name of the man on screen, believing he is killing L. The man collapses and dies of a heart attack on live television. Light smiles. thinking he has won. Then the real L speaks. The voice comes through the broadcast. L reveals that the person who died was not him. The man was named Lind L. Taylor, and he was used to provoke Kira. L also reveals that the broadcast was not shown worldwide. It was shown only in a specific region of Japan. By killing Lind L. Taylor, Kira revealed his location. L announces that Kira is in the Kanto region. Light's smile vanishes. He realizes what just happened. L is real, L is brilliant, and L is hunting him. This is the moment where Death Note becomes a duel, not just a story of a powerful notebook. From here onward, it is two minds clashing across the world. One believes he is justice made flesh. The other believes no one has the right to play God. Light, now fully committed, vows to kill LL. Now fully certain of the threat, vows to capture Kira. The war begins. After the televised trap, the world changes. Kira is no longer an invisible rumor. He is an active enemy of law enforcement, and law enforcement has a name for its champion. L begins working with the Japanese police, but only with a small, trusted group. The reason is simple. L suspects that Kira has access to police information. The timing of some killings suggests that Kira knows which criminals are being investigated, which cases are being prioritized, and which suspects are being sought. That kind of knowledge points towards someone close to law enforcement, or someone who can obtain police data. The Japanese police assemble a task force. Light's father, Soichiro Yagami, is one of its central figures. Soichiro believes deeply in lawful justice. He is the opposite of Kira's philosophy. When he hears the deaths called a cleansing, he is horrified. He wants criminals arrested and tried, not executed by an unseen hand. L speaks to the task force through monitors and voice modulation. He is cautious. He trusts the task force members, but he does not trust the world. He warns them that anyone could be Kira, even someone within their own circle. Light watches all of this from the edge of his ordinary life. He continues going to school. He studies. He smiles at his family. But at night, he writes names. His killings are calculated, spaced in patterns designed to influence society. He wants to reduce crime, but he also wants to build fear, to create a sense that Kira is everywhere. L begins narrowing the possibilities. Kira can kill without touching the victim. Kira can kill from a distance. Kira likely needs a name and a face. The deaths by heart attack suggest a default method, and the occasional unusual deaths suggest Kira can control the manner of death. To test Kira further and to locate him, L brings in international assistance. The Federal Bureau of Investigation sends agents to Japan. Their mission is to secretly investigate the families of Japanese police officers, especially those connected to the task force. If Kira is close to the police, then Kira might be among the people who would have access to police information at home. One of these agents is Ray Penber. Ray Penber is assigned to watch Light Yagami. He follows Light in public, observing his behavior. Light notices almost immediately. Light's awareness is sharp. He senses the same face too often, the same footsteps, the same pattern. Light realizes he is being tailed, and rather than panic, he plans. Light needs to know the agent's name. Without a name, the Death Note cannot act. Light also knows he cannot attack blindly, because that could draw more suspicion. He must make it look natural, or at least unavoidable. Light sets up a scenario to force the agent into revealing his identity. On a bus, Light stages an incident involving a criminal who attempts to hijack the vehicle. The situation becomes tense. Passengers panic. The criminal threatens people with a weapon. The bus driver is shaken. Everything feels dangerously real. Ray Penber, as an FBI agent, cannot ignore the threat. He acts. He reveals that he is law enforcement and attempts to handle the situation. In that moment, Light sees his identification, confirming the agent's name. The bus incident resolves without Light being harmed, but the effect is powerful. Light has what he wanted. Now he can kill the agent. However, Light's plan is bigger than removing one person. Light realizes that the FBI presence itself is a threat. If they remain, they will continue digging. Light wants them gone. He decides to eliminate all of them at once, but in a way that will also send a message. Light orchestrates a chain of events, using the Death Note's ability to control actions before death. He approaches Ray Penber in a calculated manner and sets up a situation where Ray will be compelled to follow instructions. In the story, Ray ends up under the influence of the Death Note. Light uses a torn page from the notebook and forces a sequence in which Ray writes down the names of other FBI agents in Japan. This is not random killing. It is synchronized. It is a coordinated purge. Soon after, FBI agents across Japan die, one after another, in a chilling wave. For law enforcement, it is a disaster. Their secret operation is exposed. Their agents are dead. Their investigation has been crippled. L is furious, but his mind remains cold. The mass deaths confirm something crucial. Kira can manipulate victims before their deaths. Kira can cause them to act in complex ways. That means the Death Note, whatever it is, has more power than simple killing. At the same time, L realizes something else. The FBI agents died shortly after they began watching police families. That suggests Kira learned about them quickly. Either Kira has access to police information, or Kira is close enough to observe and respond. Then another threat appears, not to Kira, but to Light. Naomi Misora. Naomi Misora is connected to Ray Penber. She is intelligent, sharp, and experienced. In the anime, she is a former FBI agent with strong investigative instincts. When she learns about Ray's death, she does not accept the official explanation. She sees patterns. She suspects that Ray was killed because he was investigating Kira. Naomi begins piecing together information on her own. She realizes that the timing and coordination point towards someone who interacted directly with Ray. She also considers the possibility that Kira needs both a name and a face. This matters because it suggests a method, not magic. It suggests a set of rules. Naomi reaches a conclusion that could change everything. She believes Kira cannot kill unless he knows the victim's name and has seen their face. She also believes Ray must have revealed his identity to someone, perhaps under pressure. Naomi decides to go to the police and share her findings. If she speaks to the task force, her insights could accelerate the investigation dramatically. Light learns about Naomi's existence and realizes she is extremely dangerous. She is not an ordinary bystander. She is someone capable of connecting dots that others have missed. This leads to one of the most tense and tragic sequences in the early story. Naomi approaches the police headquarters, intending to speak with someone in charge. She is close to meeting Light's father, Soakiro. If she reaches him and tells him what she suspects, the investigation will tighten around Light. Light intercepts her. He approaches Naomi calmly, politely, presenting himself as someone involved with the investigation. He gains her trust through demeanor and timing, acting like a helpful insider who can guide her to the right person. Naomi is cautious because she understands the danger. She initially provides a false name. She is smart enough to protect herself, but Light is smarter in this moment. He listens, observes, and adapts. He gently challenges her false identity by using details that imply he already knows more than he should. He makes it seem as if official procedures require her real name to be recorded for safety and communication. He also implies that L is involved, which makes Naomi more willing to cooperate because she respects L's reputation. Light's goal is simple. He needs Naomi's true name. As they walk and talk, the tension is invisible to the people around them, but it is crushing for the viewer. Naomi is almost at the point where she will be safe, almost at the point where she will pass her crucial information to the task force. Light is racing against minutes. At one point, Soakiro Yagami is nearby, but Light maneuvers the situation so Naomi does not meet him. Light keeps her moving. He keeps her focused on him. He keeps her just far enough away from help. Eventually, Naomi reveals her real name, Naomi Misora. The moment Light gets it, he wins. He writes her name into the death note, and he specifies the actions that will occur before her death. Naomi, under the notebook's influence, is compelled to walk away and disappear. The exact details of her final moments are controlled by the death note's rules, and what matters most is the outcome. Naomi Misora vanishes. For the police, she becomes a missing person. For the audience, it is a devastating moment because Naomi was close to saving the world from Kira. She was close to exposing Light, but Light's manipulation was perfect. L notices. L does not have full proof yet, but he sees patterns. People connected to the investigation keep dying or disappearing. Anyone who gets too close is removed. The deaths are not random. They are strategic. L's suspicion deepens, and the focus narrows toward the idea that Kira is not a professional criminal. Kira is someone intelligent, someone capable of planning, someone able to act calmly under pressure. This points toward a terrifying possibility. Kira might be living an ordinary life. Kira might be someone like a student. Kira might be someone who looks perfectly normal. And as L studies the case, the name Light Yagami begins to sit closer and closer to the center of his attention. Even if he cannot yet prove it, the net is tightening. Light has eliminated the FBI threat and silenced Naomi Misora, but his actions have also proven to L that Kira is highly intelligent and operating with a method. L decides he can no longer fight this war from a distance. If he wants to catch Kira, he will have to move closer. He will have to place himself directly in Kira's world. And that decision sets the stage for the next phase, where Light and L will no longer be distant opponents, but two people standing face to face, smiling, while trying to destroy each other. After the FBI agents die and Naomi Misora disappears, the investigation reaches a new level of urgency. L knows that the enemy is not only powerful, but also calculating. Kira is not acting randomly. Kira responds to threats quickly, removes obstacles with precision, and anticipates police moves. L's conclusion is unsettling. He is dealing with someone who thinks like a strategist. At this stage, L decides that distance is no longer enough. If he wants to catch Kira, he needs to get close to the people he suspects. He needs to watch their reactions directly. He needs to apply pressure that cannot be avoided by staying behind a screen. This decision leads to one of the most famous moments in the series. At Light's school, there is a public event where new students are introduced. Light is there, calm and polished, exactly as everyone expects. Then, in a move that shocks the audience and devastates Light internally, a strange young man approaches him. The young man introduces himself as Hideki Ryuga. Light's heart tightens. Hideki Ryuga is the name of a popular musician and actor. It is a name that feels like a disguise. The young man's posture is unusual, his eyes intense, and his expression both bored and sharp at the same time. He speaks like someone who has already decided what he thinks of you. The young man then does something even more shocking. He says that he is L. For Light, this is a moment of pure danger. L has placed himself directly in front of him. Light's first instinct is to kill him immediately, but the death note requires the victim's real name and a face. Light has the face. He does not have the real name. And now he realizes L has done this on purpose. L knows the rules are likely based on identity and recognition. L is offering a false name to bait Kira into making a mistake. Light responds with a perfect smile. He shakes L's hand, but inside, Light is furious. He understands the message. L is saying, I am close enough to touch you. I am close enough to challenge you in public. And I am close enough to watch you. From that moment onward, the battle is no longer distant. It becomes personal. L continues to test Light. He watches how Light reacts to being confronted. He watches how quickly Light adjusts his expression and voice. Light remains controlled, but the tension is constant. Soon after, L and Light engage in a tennis match. On the surface, it is just a game, a normal school activity, but both of them treat it as psychological warfare. L plays with intensity. Light plays with pride and precision. Each point is a message. Each pause between hits feels like a silent conversation. The match becomes a metaphor for their conflict. Two people smiling, sweating, acting polite, while each one tries to read the other's mind. Afterward, L pushes further. He invites Light into the investigation. This is a trap for both of them. For L, bringing Light closer means he can observe him constantly and test his logic. For Light, joining the investigation means he can control information, steer suspicion away from himself, and gain access to details that might help him identify L's real name. Light accepts. Now Light's double life becomes even more complex. He is a student, a son, and the secret killer called Kira. But he is also officially cooperating with the task force hunting Kira. This phase includes the famous surveillance period. L suspects that Kira might be someone who can access police information indirectly, perhaps through family. Light's father is a senior officer, and the task force is operating with caution. L decides to place hidden cameras and microphones inside the homes of task force members. Light's home becomes one of the monitored locations. Light senses that he is being tested. He knows that if he stops killing criminals, it will look suspicious, as if Kira is under pressure. But if he continues killing while cameras are watching, he risks exposure. Light must find a method to kill while appearing innocent, and he must do it while being observed. This leads to another iconic moment. Light sets up a routine. He studies at home. He eats snacks. He keeps his behavior normal, but he also secretly continues to write names. He uses the death note in a hidden way. The details are meticulous. He conceals the notebook in a hidden compartment, and he uses a small television hidden inside a snack bag to watch news broadcasts. While the cameras and microphones record him, he appears to be casually eating potato chips and studying. But inside the bag, a miniature TV shows criminals' faces and names. Light glances at it while keeping his eyes mostly on his books, so the movement looks natural. Then, while hiding his hand movements behind the bag, he writes names using a small piece of pencil. The writing is concealed so that the cameras do not capture the notebook clearly. Light's speed is practiced. His face remains calm. His posture remains believable. He is killing people while being watched. The task force watches the footage and is disturbed. Light appears almost too normal. L is not convinced. L is impressed by the performance, but his suspicion does not disappear. Instead, it grows sharper. L begins to suspect that if Light is Kira, then Light is the kind of person who could perform innocence with terrifying discipline. While this direct battle continues, a new element enters the story. Misa Amane. Misa is a young woman who becomes obsessed with Kira. She is not drawn to Kira because she loves death. She is drawn to Kira because she believes Kira delivered justice for her. In her past, her parents were murdered, and the criminal responsible was not punished quickly or properly. When Kira begins killing criminals, Misa believes that Kira's power represents the justice she always wanted. Misa's obsession becomes dangerous because she obtains a death note of her own. The story reveals that another Shinigami was involved. A Shinigami named Jealous saved Misa's life by killing someone who was going to murder her. In doing so, Jealous broke a rule of the Shinigami. Shinigami exist to extend their own lives by taking human lifespans, not to protect humans out of love. Because Jealous acted to save Misa, Jealous turned into dust and died. The death note that belonged to Jealous is then brought to Misa by another Shinigami, Rem. Rem is very different from Ryuk. Rem is serious, protective, and emotionally attached to Misa. Rem carries Jealous's notebook and delivers it to Misa. Rem does this because she respects Jealous's feelings for Misa and wants to honor what Jealous did. Now there are two death notes in the human world. Misa, unlike Light, is willing to make a sacrifice for greater power. She makes a deal for the Shinigami eyes. The Shinigami, eyes allow the user to see a person's name and lifespan above their head just by looking at their face. But the deal requires the human to give up half of their remaining lifespan. Misa accepts this without hesitation. This changes the entire game. Light needed names and faces, and he had to work hard to obtain both. Misa can simply look at someone and know their real name. Misa wants to meet Kira. She wants to become his ally. She also wants to be loved by him, even if that love is one-sided. To attract Kira's attention, Misa sends tapes to a television station. The tapes are directed at Kira and include messages that prove she has a death note and the Shinigami eyes. She calls herself a supporter and claims she can help Kira. The media calls her the second Kira. The task force is alarmed. The existence of a second Kira suggests that Kira's power might be transferable. It also suggests that the killer might not be one person, but a phenomenon. Light sees opportunity. If he can control the second Kira, he can use her abilities to identify L's real name and kill him. If the second Kira can see names, then the second Kira can look at L and reveal his identity. But the second Kira is also a threat. She is emotional, reckless, and unpredictable. Her behavior could expose Light. Misa eventually manages to meet Light. She recognizes him as Kira based on clues and behavior, and her devotion becomes immediate and intense. She is delighted, almost euphoric, to be near him. Light does not share her excitement. Light's inner reaction is cold. He sees Misa as a tool. He speaks politely and plays along because he needs her power. But he has no intention of giving her the romantic devotion she wants. Misa tells Light about her Shinigami eyes. She also tells him about the deal and the cost. Light is fascinated, but refuses the deal himself. He believes he needs his full lifespan to achieve his vision. He also believes he can outsmart L without giving up half his life. The task force, meanwhile, analyzes the tapes and begins to develop methods to trace the second Kira. L devises tests and traps. He observes that the second Kira's messages include coded hints that suggest she is in Japan. He also studies the difference in killing methods and timing. L becomes more suspicious that Light and the second Kira are connected. The pressure rises rapidly. Eventually, Misa is captured and placed under confinement. L interrogates her, trying to break her story and prove her involvement. Misa denies everything, but the evidence against her is strong enough that the task force agrees to detain her. Light is also placed under suspicion, more intensely than ever. At this moment, Light makes one of the most extreme moves in the series. He chooses to temporarily abandon being Kira. This is not a moral awakening. It is strategy. Light understands that L is closing in. He also understands that the Death Note is the only true link connecting him to the killings. Light forms a plan based on a core rule. When a person gives up ownership of the Death Note, they lose their memories related to it. Light decides to use this. He arranges events so that he will relinquish ownership of the Death Note. This will erase his memories of being Kira, making him genuinely innocent in behavior and response. L will still suspect him, but Light will be able to endure interrogation without slipping, because he will not remember the crimes. Light also sets it up so that the notebook will be passed to someone else who will continue the killings. This is essential. If the killings stop entirely after Light is detained, the suspicion would become too obvious. Light's plan involves Ryuk, the Shinigami who owns his notebook. Ryuk is not loyal, but he follows certain rules and agreements as long as he is entertained. Light arranges for the notebook to leave his possession. Light is then detained. In confinement, something strange happens. Light becomes different. He no longer has the cold inner voice of Kira. He no longer sees himself as a god of judgment. He is confused, angry, and desperate to understand why he is being accused. He believes he is innocent, because he is. Without the notebook memories, Light is genuinely not Kira in his mind. This creates one of the most unsettling twists for the audience. The same person who declared himself a god now sits in chains, insisting he would never kill anyone. And he means it. L watches him closely. L wants proof. He wants a crack. He wants a moment where Light reveals himself. But Light shows none. Meanwhile, the killings continue. Criminals keep dying by heart attacks. The world still fears Kira. That means someone else has the death note and is acting as Kira. This confuses the task force. If Light is in confinement and the killings continue, then maybe Light is not Kira. Or maybe Kira has an accomplice. Or maybe Kira's power is broader than they imagined. The case shifts. L begins looking for this new Kira. The investigation leads toward a powerful business group called Yotsuba. Members of the Yotsuba group are influential corporate executives. The task force begins to suspect that someone inside Yotsuba is using Kira's power to eliminate business competitors and influence the market. The pattern of deaths starts to match corporate interests. L and the task force decide to infiltrate and observe Yotsuba. Here is where Light, now without memories, becomes genuinely helpful to the investigation. He still has his intelligence. He still has his deductive ability. He still wants justice. Without the death note, he becomes what he might have been if the notebook never fell. A brilliant young man working to catch a killer. Light joins the team in tracking Yotsuba, not realizing that the killer they are hunting is connected to the notebook he once used. And in the background, Ryuk remains present, watching the chaos with amused eyes, eating apples, and waiting for the moment when ownership changes again. By the end of this phase, the story has been turned inside out. Light is no longer the active Kira in his mind, yet the world still suffers under Kira's shadow. L is closer than ever, but he is forced to chase a new suspect group. And the death note continues to move through human hands, creating a chain of death. This sets the stage for the next major shift, where the notebook returns, memories return, and the battle reaches its first tragic climax. The investigation into Yotsuba becomes the center of the story. The task force begins monitoring the activities of several Yotsuba executives. Their suspicion grows because the timing of certain deaths aligns with corporate decisions. Rivals die. Obstacles vanish. Deals become easier after certain individuals suddenly collapse. L decides that the best way to confirm which Yotsuba member is responsible is to observe their private meetings. The task force works with surveillance and careful planning. They focus on the group of executives who meet and discuss business strategies. Through listening and observation, they begin to see something chilling. The executives are discussing deaths as if they are tools. They talk about who should be eliminated, not in the language of murder, but in the language of profit. This confirms that at least one of them has the power of Kira. The suspect becomes clearer. Kyosuke Higuchi. Higuchi is one of the Yotsuba executives, and his behavior stands out. He seems eager, nervous, and more aggressive in suggesting eliminations. The task force grows convinced that he is the one with the death note. They decide to trap him. One part of the plan involves baiting Higuchi into killing on command, so the task force can prove he is responsible. To do this, they create a scenario where Higuchi believes he is communicating with Kira or receiving instructions. The plan is risky. If Higuchi realizes he is being manipulated, he could flee or kill members of the task force. As the operation unfolds, Higuchi takes the bait. He attempts to use his power in a controlled moment. Then the task force moves. A chase begins. Higuchi tries to escape by car, but police and task force members pursue him. It becomes a tense pursuit on the highway. Eventually, Higuchi is forced into a situation where he cannot escape. The task force captures him. This is the crucial moment. They find the notebook, the death note. When Light comes into contact with the death note again, something immediate happens. His memories return. It is not gradual. It is instant, like a switch flipping in his mind. The moment he touches the notebook, Light remembers everything. The notebook falling from the sky, the first names, Ryuk, the declaration of becoming a god, the manipulations, the kills, the plan to lose memory, and most importantly, he remembers his goal. Kill L. Now Light is once again Kira, fully aware, while sitting among the task force as if nothing has changed. He keeps his expression controlled. He acts like the same helpful investigator. But inside, his cold ambition returns. The task force questions Higuchi. They want to understand how he killed people. Higuchi talks about the notebook in confused, selfish terms. He does not fully grasp the moral weight of what he did. He cares about power and business. He is not like Light, who built an ideology. During interrogation, Higuchi reveals information about the notebook's rules. The task force is stunned. A notebook that kills. A supernatural tool. It is hard for them to accept, but the evidence begins to confirm it. At this stage, the story also reveals another key player. Rem has been watching, just as Ryuk has. But Rem's motives are different. Rem cares about Misei. Misei is still in custody, suffering under confinement. Rem watches her suffering with anger and worry. Rem also knows that if Misei remains trapped and suspected, her life is in danger. Light understands this. Light realizes that Rem's protectiveness is a weakness that can be exploited. Light's plan becomes cruelly elegant. He wants to remove L. He wants to ensure Misei survives. And he wants to do it using Rem. Light begins maneuvering events so that L will move closer to proving Misei is the second Kira. Because if L is about to execute or permanently imprison Misei, Rem will be forced to act. Rem, as a Shinigami, has the power to kill. If Rem kills L to protect Misei, then Rem breaks the same kind of rule that killed Jealous. A Shinigami who kills to save a human they care about will die. So if Rem kills L, Rem will die too. This is exactly what Light wants. He wants L dead, and he wants Rem gone, because Rem is dangerous and emotional. Ryuk is neutral. Rem is not neutral. Rem would kill Light if she believed he threatened Misei. Light needs Rem out of the way. To accomplish this, Light carefully pushes the situation until Rem has no choice. L, still brilliant, remains suspicious even after Higuchi is caught. The existence of the Death Note does not erase L's doubts. L suspects that the notebook changed hands and that Light and Misei were involved earlier. L observes that when Light and Misei were confined, the killings continued. That supports the idea that the notebook was passed to someone else. That fits Light's memory loss strategy, but L does not know that. L's mind keeps returning to Light. He cannot prove it, but he cannot let go. As the investigation continues, L begins closing in on Misei again. The evidence of her connection to the second Kira tapes remains. L believes she was involved. He also believes she may still be involved. Rem watches this tightening net. There is a mood shift in the anime during this phase. The air feels heavy. There are moments where L appears almost unsettled, as if he senses that something final is approaching. He continues working, but his instincts are screaming. Light, meanwhile, acts with calm confidence. He has reclaimed his power. He has set the trap. Then the climax arrives. Rem writes names in the Death Note. Rem kills L. Rem also kills Watari, L's assistant, the man who has served him for years and manages his operations. When L dies, it is abrupt and heartbreaking. He is there, alive, thinking, and then he collapses. The way the anime presents it emphasizes the shock. L had seemed untouchable, almost supernatural in intelligence, but he is still human. He can be killed. Watari dies as well, and his death triggers further damage. Watari had systems in place, and after his death, certain information and resources are destroyed or erased to protect L's legacy. Rem, after killing to protect Misei, pays the price. Rem disintegrates and dies. In the aftermath, the task force is devastated. They lose their leader and the person who gave them hope. Some members struggle with grief and confusion. Some feel fear because they realize how deeply supernatural this case truly is. Light, however, feels something else. Victory. He does not celebrate openly. He holds his face in calm restraint. But inside, he believes he has proven himself. He has defeated L, the greatest detective in the world. Now the world is open to him. With L gone, someone must take control of the investigation. Light steps into that space. Light presents himself as the natural successor. He already worked with the task force. He has intelligence. He appears dedicated. He appears trustworthy. And the task force, broken and desperate, allows it. Light becomes the new L. This is one of the most disturbing achievements in the story. The killer becomes the investigator. The person who murders criminals becomes the leader of the group that is supposed to stop him. Time passes. the anime shifts forward by several years. During this time, Kira's influence grows. Crime rates decrease. People around the world begin living under the belief that an unseen judge will kill wrongdoers. Some people worship Kira. Some fear him. Some hate him. But the world adapts. Kira's presence becomes a new normal. Light continues living a double life. Publicly, he is the Detective L, leading the investigation. Secretly, he is Kira, shaping society through death. He uses the notebook carefully, often through intermediaries and controlled methods, so that suspicion remains low. Misa remains close to Light, devoted and eager, even though Light continues to treat her as a means to an end. She wants love. He wants control. Ryuk remains in the background, entertained, watching the growth of Kira's kingdom. By the end of this stage, it appears that Light has achieved what he wanted. L is dead. The investigation is under his control. Criminals fear Kira. The world is changing. But Death Note is not a story where victory lasts. L had a legacy. He had people connected to his past. And somewhere, others are preparing to take the place he left behind. Years pass after L's death, and the world adjusts to a terrifying new reality. Kira is no longer just a rumor. Kira is a force that shapes behavior. People talk about crime rates dropping. Some communities feel safer. Some feel watched. Some feel oppressed. A large part of the public begins treating Kira like a god. Another part sees Kira as the worst kind of criminal, someone who executes people without trial. In Japan, Light Yagami stands at the center of this new world. Publicly, Light is now L. He operates as the leader of the investigation. He participates in meetings, coordinates police responses, and maintains the image of a brilliant detective trying to stop Kira. Privately, Light is Kira. This means that Kira's enemy and Kira's controller are the same person. Light has gained an extraordinary advantage, and for a while, it seems like nothing can threaten him. But the story now reveals something that L built long before his death. Whammy's house. Whammy's house is an institution in England that raised gifted children. L was one of its greatest successes. Over time, Whammy's house produced children who could potentially become the next L. After L dies, the question becomes obvious. Who will replace him? Two candidates emerge as the most important, Near and Mello. Near, whose real name is Nate River, is calm, analytical, and methodical. He resembles L in his quiet intelligence, his detached focus, and his ability to connect information into a larger pattern. Mello, whose real name is Mihal Kihal, is intense, aggressive, and emotional. He resembles a different side of L. He wants results quickly. He is willing to take risks. He hates losing. Both were raised under the shadow of L. Both believed they could become the successor, but neither will accept being second. When L dies, Near and Mello do not become a unified replacement. They split. Near forms the SBK. The SBK is a special investigation team supported by the United States. It includes skilled agents and resources that allow Near to operate internationally. Their goal is to identify and capture Kira. Mello chooses a different path. He breaks away and aligns with criminal organizations, including the Mafia, to gain power quickly. He believes that to defeat Kira, he must take extreme measures. This creates a split pressure against Light. Nier approaches the problem like a puzzle. Mello approaches the problem like a war. Light learns that new investigators are coming, and he begins to treat them as threats that must be eliminated. But the situation is different from L. L placed himself close to Light, which gave Light a chance to learn him. Nier stays distant and protected. Mello stays unpredictable and dangerous. The Kira case becomes global again. Nier begins studying Kira's patterns after L's death. He suspects that Kira has infiltrated the investigation itself. He studies how the Japanese task force operates under the new L. He observes decisions, reactions, and results. He looks for the same kind of contradiction L noticed. Nier also begins communicating with the Japanese task force. He claims to be L's successor, and he requests cooperation. Light is furious, but he hides it. Light, acting as L, pretends to cooperate. He speaks politely and maintains the role of investigator. But internally, he sees Nier as a replacement that must be crushed. At the same time, Mello is moving fast. Mello's goal is to obtain the Death Note. He understands that the notebook is the key to Kira's power. He believes that if he can seize it, he can control the battlefield. Mello works with criminals and uses kidnapping, threats, and force. This leads to one of the most important escalations. There is a series of events involving the Death Note being taken, moved, and fought over. The exact details involve high-risk operations and multiple parties trying to control the notebook. In the anime, Mello's faction kidnaps people connected to the investigation to pressure for the notebook. The Japanese police and task force are forced into desperate decisions. One of the most emotional and critical moments is when Light's father, Soichiro Yagami, becomes directly involved in the conflict around the notebook. Soichiro is a man of justice, but he is also a father. He wants to stop Kira, but he does not know that Kira is his own son. As the struggle intensifies, there is a situation where Soichiro chooses to make the Shinigami Eyes deal. This is a major moment. Unlike Light, Soichiro is willing to sacrifice half of his remaining life if it means stopping Kira. He makes the deal, gains the ability to see names and lifespans, and uses it to identify criminals and pursue the notebook. During this arc, there is a confrontation involving the Mafia and the Death Note. Soichiro participates in an assault, determined to recover the notebook. He is injured during the operation. He manages to see the name of one of the critical targets. But despite his sacrifice, the situation does not end the way he hoped. Soichiro Yagami dies. His death is tragic because he dies believing in justice, still unaware that Light is Kira. He dies trying to do the right thing, sacrificing his own life for the cause. Light reacts outwardly with the grief expected of a son. Internally, Light continues calculating as Nier and Mello close in from different directions. Light realizes he needs a new structure to maintain his control. Light cannot always write names himself. He needs distance. He needs a proxy. This is where Teru Mikami enters. Teru Mikami is a man who becomes known as ex-Kira. He is intelligent, disciplined, and fanatically devoted to Kira's ideology. Mikami believes that Kira is absolute justice. He believes criminals and those who oppose Kira deserve death. Light chooses Mikami because Mikami has qualities Light values. Mikami is methodical. Mikami is obedient. Mikami is willing to kill without hesitation. Light gives Mikami a death note to act as his hand. This allows Light to appear clean while killings continue. Mikami develops a ritual. He goes to the bank. He retrieves the notebook from a hidden location. He writes names with intense focus. He speaks the word delete as if he is erasing evil itself. Nier notices patterns. Nier studies the timing and suspects that someone is writing names on a schedule. Nier suspects that the real Kira might be directing someone else. Light also brings another person into the plan, Kiyomi Takada. Takada is a public figure, intelligent and charismatic, chosen to become a spokesperson for Kira. She speaks publicly about Kira's justice and influences public opinion. Takada also has a personal connection to Light. In the past, they knew each other. This connection becomes useful for Light because he can communicate with Takada in ways that look legitimate. Light uses Takada as a communication bridge between himself and Mikami. Now the structure becomes a triangle. Light directs, Takada relays, Mikami executes. Nier SBK begins pushing deeper. Nier gathers evidence, compares behavior, and concludes that the person acting as L in Japan might actually be Kira. Nier's suspicion becomes more direct. He begins arranging tests to confirm the notebook's existence and identify the chain of control. The conflict becomes extremely dangerous because both sides understand that one mistake could end everything. Then Mello makes a move that changes the endgame. Mello kidnaps Takada. This is not just a random act. Mello wants to disrupt Kira's network and force a reaction. Takada is important because she is a public face and a private communication tool. Takada, trapped and pressured, becomes a crisis point. Light cannot allow Takada to be interrogated by Mello or Nier. If Takada reveals anything, Light's identity could be exposed. At the same time, Mikami also cannot allow Takada to survive in captivity because Takada knows too much. This situation creates a critical flaw. Light instructs Takada in a way that allows her to kill under specific circumstances. And Takada has a piece of the death note, which can also be used to write names. Takada attempts to handle the crisis, but Nier is watching. The SBK tracks patterns and movements. Mikami, under pressure, makes the mistake that ultimately destroys Kira. In the anime, Mikami goes to the hidden location where the real death note is stored. He does this because he believes he needs to act independently to solve the Takada crisis. He believes this is the correct choice for Kira's cause. But this action is exactly what Nier needed. Nier's team discovers the existence and location of the real notebook. Nier then executes a plan. Nier creates a fake notebook. Nier arranges for the real notebook to be replaced or copied in a way that Mikami will not notice. The goal is to create a final confrontation where Mikami will try to kill Nier and the others, but the notebook will fail. This will expose Kira. The final confrontation is arranged at a warehouse. It is known as the Yellow Box Warehouse. Nier invites the Japanese task force, including Light in his role as L, to meet there. Nier also brings the SPK. Mikami is present. The air is tense. Everyone is on edge. Light believes he is about to win. Light's plan is simple. At the meeting, Mikami will write the names of everyone opposing Kira in the death note. They will die. Nier and the SPK will be eliminated. The remaining task force members will be confused, and Light will remain as L, untouched. Light believes this is checkmate. The meeting begins. Nier speaks calmly. He lays out his reasoning. He explains that he believes Light is Kira. Light denies it, maintaining the role. Then Mikami makes his move. Mikami declares himself as Kira's representative. He pulls out the notebook. He begins writing names. Mikami writes the names of everyone he believes is Kira's enemy. Everyone waits. In the plan Light expects, they should die. But nothing happens. Seconds pass. No one collapses. No one dies. Mikami's eyes widen. He cannot understand. Nier reveals the truth. The notebook Mikami is using is a fake. Nier explains that he anticipated this moment. He prepared a counterfeit notebook. Mikami has been writing in the wrong book. This is the trap. Now Mikami is exposed. Light's face changes. For the first time in a long time, the mask begins to crack. Nier continues. He explains the chain of evidence. He explains the patterns. He explains how Mikami's behavior and Takada's movements revealed the existence of the notebook. He explains that the only person who fits the role of Kira, while also being in the position of L, is Light. The task force members react with disbelief. Some cannot accept it. Some want proof. Nier provides it. In the anime's final confrontation, the logic closes around Light. His denials grow weaker as each piece falls into place. Then Light breaks. He admits it. Not calmly, not proudly. He snaps. Light begins shouting, arguing that he is justice. He says the world improved because of Kira. He says criminals deserve death. He calls himself the one who made the world better. Nier responds with cold clarity. Nier states that Kira is simply a murderer. Nier rejects the idea that killing without trial is justice. Nier refuses to worship a human who decided he had the right to judge everyone. Light's anger becomes panic. He tries to salvage the situation. He reveals a hidden piece of the death note, attempting to write names himself. But the SPK and task force react. In the anime, Light is shot. He is wounded. The warehouse becomes chaos. Light, bleeding, tries to escape. He runs out, desperate, refusing to accept defeat. He stumbles through the night, injured and fatting. Ryuk watches. Ryuk has been with Light from the beginning. Ryuk has always said he is neutral. Ryuk also said something important early on. A Shinigami does not stay with a human forever. Eventually, the Shinigami writes the human's name. As Light lies injured and cornered by the end of his path, Ryuk speaks. Ryuk tells Light that it is over. Ryuk explains that if Light is taken into custody, he will spend the rest of his life in prison. Ryuk is not interested in watching that. Ryuk did not come to the human world to watch boredom. Ryuk came for entertainment, and the show is ending. Ryuk takes out his own death note. Light, hearing the scratch of writing, becomes terrified. He realizes what is happening. Ryuk writes Light Yagami's name. This is the final act. Light dies. Kira ends. In the aftermath, the world is forced to face what happened. Some people celebrate. Some people mourn. Some people fear that crime will return. The task force members are left shattered. They lost their leader, Soakiro. They lost years of their lives. They were used by Light without knowing. They also have to carry the knowledge that the man they trusted as L was the killer. Nier becomes the one who truly inherits L's role, not by worship, but by completing what L started. The story ends with the world continuing, altered by the memory of Kira. There is also a final haunting detail. Ryuk returns to the Shinigami realm. He is amused, because to Ryuk, this was always a story about humans. A human who found power. A human who believed he could become a god. A human who tried to control death. And a human who, in the end, was just another name in a notebook. This is Death Note, a story of justice twisted into obsession, a story of intelligence turned into arrogance, a story that asks one central question. If you had the power to kill with a name, would you call it justice, or would you call it murder? And if you used it long enough, would you still remember the difference?